Well, what now? This is Brian here with the Eclectic News Network with probably one of the last videos I'm going to be doing about what's going on here in the year 2021 about the election and what happened yesterday at the Capitol. Very sad day in history. Is it the worst day in history? No. A lot of people are saying they're comparing it to Pearl Harbor, which is bullshit. It's not Pearl Harbor. The only thing that happened was the Q movement of the right wing basically caused a 14-year-old U.S. Air Force veteran female to lose her life because she thought she was fighting for the country by listening to Lin Wood, who thinks he's the second coming of Jesus Christ. This is the Eclectic News Network. I'm Brian Budd. I just want to mention to you all that in this new year, it's always important to survive and thrive by having storable food. My Patriot Supply is not a sponsor of mine, but they are very good for having storable food. Right now, they're having 10% off and their sale's ending tomorrow. So get yourself at least a 4-week supply. They have up to a year supply. Usually orders take about 6 to 8 weeks. So just keep that in mind. MyPatriotSupply.com. So when you look at what's going on, and I'm going to kind of say this in a way that's I'm working a different shift, so I'm a little slow right now. I work till 11 o'clock. This is my day off. So my days off now are Wednesday and Thursday right now. So it's been about 3 weeks now, and I'm still getting used to it. But it's in the wintertime, so it doesn't really matter. Hopefully I can get out of this shift and get to a new one here and maybe get at my job, maybe get a better shift like a 9 to 5 or 10 to 6. That'd be great. It's not something I want to do long term. Anyways, so we've talked about the issues of the Q movement, of they're going to arrest people, use the Insurrection Act. Yeah, I was saying if you're going to do it on the day of the election, because that way the military can be involved and make sure it's not a fraudulent election. Trump didn't do that. Trump didn't do any kind of thing to stopgap the voter fraud. Donald Trump did not drain the swamp like he said he would. Donald Trump didn't do any of that. And the reason why is because Donald Trump does not understand the elite conspiracy. Okay? That's number one. I don't think he really wants to care how government works. He just wants to get it done. And he realizes that he can't get it all done himself. It's all smoke and mirrors. They're going to tell you that, well, he's got them right where they want him. What happened yesterday, I can understand why people stormed the Capitol. Now, there's a difference between understanding something and condoning something. I can understand people are frustrated and angry because they've had their economy shut down for over 10 months. They've lost their ability to make a living. 800,000 people, almost 800,000 people just filed for unemployment claims today. 50 million were at least unemployed at one time. I was there. I get it. I feel your pain. Government's ignoring of the people and calling them terrorists because they dare to protest, redress their grievances peacefully. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, burned down cities after George Floyd died. I don't agree with why he got killed. I think it's wrong. But I don't condone, I can understand why people are upset, but I don't condone that behavior. Same thing, I understand the frustrations. I understand the anger. I understand all of it. But I don't condone what happened yesterday when they stormed the Capitol. It's some guy in a Viking hat. It was staged, probably, I would imagine. I'm sorry, can you make anything look more ridiculous? This is like out of a Mel Brooks movie. You got a guy in a Vikings helmet with horns storming the Capitol. And this poor lady, Ashley, I don't know what her last name is, but lost her life because she thought, and if you look at her tweets, they're all QAnon. They're all this hocus pocus stuff. She thought she was fighting for freedom and all this stuff, and she goes in there and she gets shot by security probably. I don't condone the storming the Capitol. However, it is our house. I don't condone it. I don't condone the acts of violence or whatever the case may be. I don't condone any of that. And neither should anybody else. But the next thing is why are you guys actually going down to DC and fighting for a man, or a politician for that matter, that does not give two shits about you? Did Trump reverse the emergency order that he signed on March 13th, 2020? That he could reverse at any time, and that would actually, in essence, end the lockdown. It would end the state's dependence on the federal government for funds for unemployment, $52,000 if you kill somebody on a ventilator for a pandemic. No. They didn't reverse any of that. Knowing that voter fraud was an option, mail-in ballots would be fraudulent, did he have any plan in place for that? Is it a sting operation like Steve Pieczenik said? No, it's not. That was their sting operation. It's going to be wild. Yeah, that was wild, all right. I mean, as wild as the Roman Senate with Caligula, was the head of his... He named his horse president of the Senate. That's how wild it was. It was a spectacle. And it made us look bad on the national stage, and that was exactly the reason. Because they're putting it in our faces that it doesn't matter. Hologram in the basement, that's Joe Biden. I just call him hologram in the basement. He's just going to continue the executive order, the emergency that Trump did back in March. But it's just going to be worse. That's all. It's just, nothing is going to change in that regard. Did Trump do anything at the Resolute desk to show the fraud? People, well, there's fraud. Okay, great. Show it. You have the authority to take over the airwaves from the Resolute desk. Do it. And he's whining because he's censored on Twitter. That's your own damn fault. You had 4 years to work on internet censorship. What did you do? You didn't do anything. You had 4 years to drain the swamp. You have done nothing but made the swamp eat you up and spit you out. Now, I applaud the things that he did do well. Tax cuts are always good. I believe in that. But I think that the one thing he failed to do is with these bigger corporations is that they allowed them to get fabulously wealthy off this tax cut. And I don't think that was a good idea. He said he's a Christian. Never seen him actually advocate that he accepts Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. So that's what you have when you have your spiritual advisor as Paula White or Kenneth Copeland. You know that he's not getting the best advice from his spiritual leaders, that's for sure. What about the fraudulent ballots that were rescanned and rescanned over again? He could have showed all that proof. He didn't have to go take people down to D.C. on the 6th. He could have shown it on the Resolute desk. And he could have broke in as an emergency. They have the technology to do that. Bill Clinton signed it in 1996. It's called the Telecommunications Act. Look it up. So all that information's there and he didn't do anything. He just sat there impotent, imbecilic, and did not do what was needed to be done. You can call Pence a traitor all day you want, and yeah, he was. I knew he was from the start because he's Mr. George Bush's mini-me. he's a globalist. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Pence is all about forced vaccinations. He's all about putting people from Monsanto into the head of the FDA, just like Trump was. And nobody does anything about it. There's really not much else to say. There is an option. There isn't just storming the Capitol. There's an option. There's called the Constitution. Okay. So everybody wants a big daddy to save them. A big daddy. Well, the case is that you don't want to have a big daddy because the federal government is not supposed to be all-encompassing. There's 9th and 10th amendments in the Constitution that are not enumerated, meaning that in the case of an event, let's say DeWine from Ohio, which he won't do, he's a spineless jellyfish, but if he doesn't like the Healthcare Act coming out next year, he can use the 10th and 9th Amendment stating this is not enumerated in the Constitution. We reject this. This is going against freedom of this, freedom of that, blah, blah, blah. He can reject it on a 9th and 10th. That's called nullification. That is completely legal and lawful as the will of the governor, of the will of the people of the state of Ohio. Or Texas, or California, or Tennessee. It's we the people. The problem is until you repeal the 17th Amendment, this charade is going to continue to go on and on and on and on. It's just going to get worse. Because as long as you can buy a senator, you can get things going the way you want to. And when they don't get it, they play dirty and they play their own way. Just look at Obamacare. Dennis Kucinich was against the bill. Then he was in that flight, and 20 minutes later he said, you know what, I think I'm going to vote for it. And he voted for it. This is why the 17th Amendment, the popular vote of election of senators, needs to be repealed. Needs to go back to the states where it's chosen by the legislators, which are backed by the people, not the special interest or the lobbyists. Until you change that, nothing will change in that respect. The only thing will happen is that you're going to have a collapse. We're Soviet Union 1987. That's where we're at right now. It is going to collapse. I'm not being fatalistic, but from a history standpoint, it hasn't gotten bad enough yet. It hasn't. People are like, this is, Romania 1989. I'm like, no. If you were under a dictator for 26 years, that literally you had half the people. You had lofts where people shared one toilet and one shower of 20 people with no running water and no shitter. Then you can talk about how oppressed you are. You're not oppressed. The most poorest here in our nation are well taken care of. That's not the case. But the agenda that they want to bring through is not going to work either. It's not. This isn't Tsarist Russia where they were used to 500 years of being peasants. Granted, yeah, we are a violent country. We were birthed in Lexington and Concord. And that's all true. But we still have that DNA of don't tread on me, stand back. You can't get rid of that. Now, we're only 2 generations removed from the greatest generation that stormed the beaches of Normandy. So it's still ingrained in us at a very deep and profound way. I mean, you look on the news, basically Democrats are moving to execute all Trump supporters. I mean, they're trying their 1917 style revolution. It's not going to work, folks. It's not. I mean, this is all political theater. I mean, you got 400 million guns in this country. It's not going to happen. I've already said it. I mean, our country might be slovenly, dumb and happy, fat, dumb and happy, but when they wake up, it's kind of like a porcupine when it pricks up. It's not very pleasant. Linwood on Parler. Many traders to be arrested over the next several days. We've been hearing that for what, how many years? Oh, next week they're all going to be arrested. Oh, next week they're all going to be arrested. I haven't seen it. Have you? Capitol Police caught on video inviting the protesters in the building. Yeah, no shit. I mean, it was basically set up. I mean, you would have saw if it was a real military presence there. It was the violation of the basic protection codes. They let them right through the parapet. I'm like, that's like when, what was it, Mr. X and JFK, when they slowed around. They would have never went around Dealey Plaza, ever. They never would have gone through there. 10 miles an hour. It was a violation of the basic protection codes. And I agree with Mr. X, who is a general. It was a massive plot because you can't have, because those guys are stage 3, meaning that they have weapons. They also have tasers. They also have other weapons of non-lethal munitions. So if you're a level 3, you would have seen a military presence if they wanted the vote to be, they wanted that to happen because they can use that crisis to take more of our rights away. I saw on the TV when I was cooking lunch today. I was cooking whatever. What was I cooking? I was reheating chicken teriyaki, whatever. Poor man's chicken teriyaki. And I'm watching C-SPAN because I'm a dork. And Lindsey Graham's on there going, we need to bring the traitors to justice. He's acting like they're terrorists, and he sounds really nervous. Yes, because when you're doing something that's totally wrong and you're looking over your shoulder, you should be scared. And I think what yesterday taught is that when the government does fear the people, there's liberty. But it's very short-lived. And people just have to make their own choice. Personally, I think that there's a lot of good that came out of this movement in the sense that it woken people up to the Constitution. But a lot of people that are supporting Trump, it's basically like supporting the Cleveland Browns. Sports and politics are totally different. You have to have a constitutional basis of knowing what you're talking about. And if you're just sitting there saying, make America great again 4 more years, I mean, what does that mean? Okay. In order for America to be good again, or to be great again, it needs to be moral again, it needs to be good again. We used to fight wars on what was right for moral reasons, not fighting people that had poverty to make them more impoverished. We didn't scare easy. We flew to the stars. We invented the greatest technology. We dared to do great things. And just like, that's because people were actually halfway intelligent. We're not like that anymore. With the advent of smartphones, we are dumbed down, including this one right here. We are dumbed down. I used to be able to remember every phone number I ever had when I was in high school and in college. I remembered all of them. I'd have 60, 70 phone numbers. I can remember all of them. Now, I know my number and I know like maybe 3 other people's numbers because I've known them for 30 years. Everybody else, I have to look through my contacts. And if I lose my contacts, it's like, boink. So I've been dumbed down myself. We all have. People say, well, ditch your cell phone. I'll be honest with you. I think I use it maybe two. When I'm working on this stuff and I'm editing, I'll use it a lot. I mean, but when I'm off, man, I just sit there and listen to music, or I'll rest, or I don't know what I'll do. I use a lot when I'm at the gym. I'll watch videos. When I'm on the treadmill, when I want to be in suspended disbelief, I'll watch a movie, something like that. But, all this stuff of, they've got him right where he wants them. January 7th, false flag attack staged to complete the steal. New York legislator wants to put coronavirus carriers in the concentration camps. Of course. Fauci says forced vaccination on the table as requirement for travel or education. Those hoping for travel to get an education post-corona may have to get vaccinated with one of President Trump's Operation Warp Speed Wuhan coronavirus COVID-19 vaccine, says Anthony Fauci. The nation's fakest doctor, which I agree, who recently admitted to lying to his entire time about herd immunity, now says that in order to return to normal life, getting jabbed could be a requirement. Anything is on the table, Fauci told Newsweek. So when Joe Biden becomes president, or hologram of the basement becomes president, at least in Fauci's mind, Fauci's planning to become that fictitious administration's chief medical advisor. In which case, the possibility of forced COVID-19 vaccination will become that much more likely. They don't have to forcibly come to you at gunpoint and forcibly inject you. They're not going to do that. People will fight back. I had lobster, fresh lobster last week. And the crabs are because the water's too hot. Well, that's the thing. If you come up to somebody like that, it's like a crab. Like, that's what happens. What you have to do is you have to go slow and, slow and go. Like when you're cooking chicken at 200 degrees for like a couple hours because you want that nice moistness. Well, it's like the frog in the pot syndrome. That's what you do is you got to slow. So first it'll be to go to college. Then it'll be to go into Congress because of the Capitol building. And then it'll be to have kids, even though it'll probably make you infertile. But then it'll be that. And then it'll be to the point where you can't hide anymore to even be in society. You have to do it or you'll be placed into a non-digital ghetto. Like a digital Warsaw back in the 30s when the Nazis took over. It's just a high-tech form. So, I cannot believe that. I can believe it because this guy is just a little jawbone. That's what Fauci is. That's what it stands for in Italian. He's a jawbone. He's a cazzone. Anyways. So, Democratic hypocrisy. Pelosi allows Democrat with coronavirus to go into the Capitol to vote for her in the election. Well, yeah, she's got to buy that ice cream, man. Let them eat ice cream. Just insane. This is sad. What you see what's going on right now. And yeah, I like watching the news. I like different sources. I used to watch InfoWars for the longest time. And then Alex Jones, when I started watching him in 2005, he woke me up into the New World Order. And I learned a lot from that show and a lot of the guests he had. I'm wondering why he doesn't have them on anymore. Now I figure out why. Because in 2016, something changed, and that was when Trump was elected. And ever since then, it was just basically a propaganda arm of course, the Trump campaign. And that's why I said, why? This stuff just doesn't make any sense anymore. Why would anybody want to just, he's not talking about the issues of vaccines, about the economy, and he's blaming it all on the Dems, even though Trump approved $7.1 trillion in spending this year. So I'm really pretty much, I've been done with him for about 3 years. The only show I watched on there was David Knight's show, which I really enjoyed because he does some pretty good research and some good journalism. And that's hard to come by today because a lot of the news out there is really paid by either Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, or the Murdochs, who they all want the same thing. They just kind of fight about it the way they go about it. And David Knight really, really does a good job. And he was fired because he didn't agree with the whole, the QRS codes that Steve Pieczenik. And I says, yeah, I got the QRS codes. And I think okay, it was a sting operation. But it got 5 million views. And that's all Alex cares about. And his own bruised ego. And that's why I don't really watch him anymore. And I really, Harrison seems like a nice guy. I saw a couple of his shows, but he's just very milquetoast, whatever. But David Knight really had some substance. He actually talked about some issues that actually goes over that I actually follow. I think that he really does a good job of, doing that. And I think a lot of people, he's at David Knight's and BitChute, you can look at it or, whatever. But he does a really good job. There's a lot of others that are independent journalists that do a really good job. Project Veritas with James O'Keefe, he's really good. There's so many of them that actually do journalism, but they're not on the big networks. Because I don't even watch them anymore. There's no point. Because they're just they're just an agenda arm of the New World Order. They just push what they want, and most people don't even research news. Most people, what they do is a piece of chocolate. Gotta have some chocolate, or I'm gonna die. Kidding. I mean, I know Godiva is good, but granted, yes, they went to genetically modified chocolate, which I'm not really happy about. It's still pretty good, though. I like it. It's a dark chocolate truffle. I'm a cocoa hoe. But anyways, so, what's the answer? A lot of people say, well, we need to, basically, QAnon, they're going to go ahead and Trump's in Abilene, Texas. He's ready to arrest everybody. And he's going to give the Insurrection Act. He's going to look like a fool if he does that, number one. Number two, if he does that, he better have some damn proof. You can't just go willy-nilly, well, this is because there's fraud. There's fraud. I got the fraud. I think he shot himself in the foot. So what's the solution? The solution's local. It's always been local. It's always been a local. Show your local economies and shop where your heart is. I try to go to like coffee shops that are locally owned, like Babes and Independence. That's on Route 21. I think they're really good coffee and they're a small little business instead of giving it to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, which is overpriced crap. Do the small business and do that. Try to do, there's certain things you can't avoid getting Walmart or Amazon. I get that. But just trying to do that. Because that's the only way we're going to win this is vote with your dollars. And the thing is that you're going to have to say no. But that's what really aggravates me about a lot of people is that they are not going to understand until it's too late. So in 2021, I think this is the year of admitting how bad things are, and let's focus on some solutions to getting better in our own lives. This pandemic cannot last forever, because if it continues on, as you said, if I said from the great Gerald Celente, when people have nothing left to lose, and they lose everything, they lose it. And you're going to see more people lose it. Pray for this country. Pray for your families. And most importantly, win. What's important now? And take it one day at a time. And I will talk to you soon.